Hello, we want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice. And today we've taken a different turn. You know, on last week we had Pastor talk to us on last week, but this week we have something just a little bit different. We have some guests with us today. We have to my left here we have attorney Carol Douglas, who, by the way, is a nominee for the Democratic chair, and she's going to be the first Black and female for that position. So we're kind of glad to have her here. And I'm going to let her explain her position just a little bit better once we get started here. And then we have Mr. Ron Jackson with us, who is a great friend of our pastors, and he is one of the top-notch, I guess, political consultants here in town. He keeps us up to date here in town. And then, of course, we have our own Pastor Nash here with us today. And we're not going to spend a lot of time talking because I want her story out. I want her to tell her story and let everybody know what she's about and what she's trying to accomplish. And we thank you for being here with us, Attorney Douglas.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted.
Okay, and we're going to give over to you now and let you tell us all about yourself.
Well, very good. Thank you so much again. My name is Carol Douglas. As I mentioned, I am an attorney with a practice here in Texas. And I am currently the first African American to run for Harris County Democratic Party chair. I did know when I filed in late December of 2011, I knew that when elected, I'm speaking in faith, as you can understand. I do have an opponent, but when elected, I would be the first African American to serve in that position and the first minority to serve in that position. But a few weeks after filing, I learned that I am actually the first African American ever to even run for the position.
Wow.
It's a volunteer position. It is on the primary ballot. It is the last position listed on the ballot, and I'm listed in position 2. So I'm telling people go to the bottom of the ballot and work your way back up. But even though it's a volunteer position, it is on the ballot because it's a very important position. Because the chair coordinates the entire Democratic strategy, political strategy for Harris County. And Harris County is the 3rd largest county in the nation. We are a very diverse city. We have a large African American community, a large and steadily growing Hispanic community. We have the Anglo and Asian communities. We have the African and Pakistani communities. We are a very diverse city. And so each of those communities pour into the pool of the Democratic voters, those current and those potential voters. So we need a chair who can actually engage all of those diverse communities, and I believe I'm that person.
Well, good to hear that. We're glad to hear that. I'm excited about it for several reasons. It's just so good to see that you even want to chair this position. I mean, so it's exciting to me. Pastor, do you have any questions for?
We want her to talk about the reason she's here. I understand there's been some kind of a little misinformation passed around the community. And you would like an opportunity to straighten it out. Why don't you do that for us? Tell the viewers what
I certainly will. Because our campaign was steadily growing in popularity and gaining more and more voters, and of course that's to the credit of our great political consultant Ron Jackson here, then we had a fabricated letter to be concocted and distributed broadly and falsely attributed to my campaign. And I was very saddened and incensed that there would be people who would stoop to that level in politics. My background, having served as executive director of the Houston branch of the NAACP for close to a decade, and then moving from there to be responsible for 5 states as a national NAACP executive, I worked across all communities. And not only did I never engage in discrimination, my work was actually dedicated to eradicate discrimination, bigotry, racism. I've gained a lot of awards and recognition for that, not because I did it for the awards, but because it's what I believe in. So when this letter was distributed starting on yesterday, I believe. Day before yesterday. It not only attacked me and my campaign, and I am running a viable campaign on the issues. I am offering to the voters a candidate of substance. I would not then attack any opponent on the basis of lifestyle, etc., but rather the experiences. I am offering myself to the voters because I do believe that I'm the more seasoned and experienced candidate. I have been involved in fundraising and been very successful with fundraising. The chair would need to raise funds. I have written, implemented, and evaluated voter empowerment, registration, education, and protection strategies and projects. I'm offering that to the voters. So when a letter came out pretending to have been written by me, someone pretended that someone on my behalf wrote the letter, I was very incensed because it not only attacked me, but it insulted the Black community in general, and more specifically, the Black religious community. It stated that it was written by a minister on behalf of ministers. Now we know that our ministers in our community, they're very committed and they are persons of character, persons of principle. Number one, they wouldn't write a letter like that. And number two, if they had anything to express, they would put their face and their name behind it.
Behind the letter.
They would not hide behind an alias. So it was an insult, not only to me, but to our community and to our clergy.
But has this letter is out in the community? It has been distributed out in the community?
Yes, it's been widely
distributed. So they do know about it.
Right, it's been widely distributed, but it also appears that it's been targeted in terms of its distribution. And then now I've become the victim of just, I've been inundated with emails attacking my character. No one has asked me whether I had any association with this letter. They just stated incorrectly that I was associated with that letter and that my campaign should be castigated, etc. Now, I believe that as politicians or as laypersons, we should be very passionate about our political positions and views. But that passion has to be bridled with principle.
Exactly.
And this was a very unprincipled act.
Exactly.
Yes.
Ron, to you, at this point in time, we have her here with us to explain the letter. Where do we go from here to get this stopped?
Well, it's a number of prevent measures that we're going to basically just try to get the legs from out of this, because this is something that we have seen before in prior elections. In fact, I know that Reverend Nash was privy in 2009 when Gene Locke was running for mayor of the city. We saw another letter written and was stated that it was from a particular minister group. This one is from Minister Willie J. Howard. There's a couple of misspellings over in it, and it's a homophobic message, which I think that it's basically just nothing but a political strategy trying to energize the gay and lesbian base to come out basically and vote. But Carol is going to address this particular issue on tomorrow. In fact, we're doing a press release at Reverend Nash Marcy O'Kee's Activity Center at 1 p.m. So members of the public who are watching this program tomorrow evening, you will be able to perhaps have seen a press release by then on television. But as Carol said before, here she is. She's running in the third largest city for this particular position, very powerful position, and you know, just right over on the eve of the 2012 presidential election. So this is particular tricks that we're starting basically to see in April, and we still have to go until November.
Yes.
But one of the disheartening things about this is this is a primary, and of course, a lot of the viewers perhaps have been hearing a lot of misinformation, and I want to address basically one or two of those pieces of misinformation. This one has started perhaps like about a week ago, and it's basically dealing with voter ID. There are a tremendous number of people that are out in the public and saying that now we must register to vote again.
Right, that's key right there.
You don't have to vote, re-register to vote again. The only reason that you have not received your voter registration card is because of the long redistricting process. We would have voted in the primary back in March because they had not drawn the lines. The race is not until May 29th, with early voting starting May 14th through the 25th. So you don't have to re-register. But still, the sad thing about it, Reverend, is that with 1.9 million registered voters in Harris County, we're expecting less than 10% on a turnout.
And that's another one of the things that I pledged to correct in becoming chair of the Harris County Democratic Party, to greatly, significantly, immediately increase voter engagement and voter turnout. There are those who believe that voters are apathetic, but I disagree with that. I believe that voters are unengaged and uninspired. And as chair of the Harris County Democratic Party, we will make concerted efforts to engage the voters, let them know that it's not just their vote that we seek, but that we value their voice. And also showing appreciation to our precinct leaders, our precinct chairs, our election judges, and doing a much better job at supporting and promoting our Democratic candidates so that we can win up and down the ballot. We've not given the just due to our candidates in terms of making certain that if we are a Democratic Party, then our goal is to be the very strongest that we can be and to present our candidates in the strongest manner that we can so that we can prevail over other parties and push the platform of the Democratic National Committee that's handed down to the local counties through the state. And that's what I pledge to do.
Not to cut you off, but I'm glad to hear you say that the voters are not apathetic. They just need a little push, you know. And Pastor talks all the time. He says, you know, everybody say, well, my vote won't count, or I'm not going to go out there, or I'm not going to do this. But if you want to make a change and you want things to happen, you have to do it. And I commend you for telling me, no, they're not apathetic. Maybe they just need a little push, and that's going to take everybody. That's going to take a concerted effort from everybody. Everybody is going to have to do that. Our churches, you know, our civic centers, we're going to have to put some energy into it if we want to get our, and especially our young voters.
I believe that our churches and our community-based organizations have been serving us well and doing the best that they can. A lot of times as a party, which is another thing I wanted to correct, is that we come around to the churches at the last minute and with no resources and want them to work miracles instead of in terms of turning out the voters. And it is the responsibility of the party to make certain that voters are mobilized, and of course we form partnerships with the churches and the community-based organizations. But that is why the voter mobilization can't just take place at election time when there's an election. It has to be a consistent, concerted, comprehensive activity, which is what we plan to do when I become chair of the Harris County Democratic Party.
So now, what you're doing, you're telling the viewers here today, that your purpose is that if in fact you're a candidate for the Democratic chair, that you can't afford to be biased or prejudiced against anybody.
Not against anyone.
For all of the people. Is that right?
That has never been in my practice. I've been honored by the Texas JCs, the Houston JCs as one of their top 5 Houstonians, top 5 Texans, because of the kind of work that I have done for equality and to make certain that people are not victim to racism, bigotry, discrimination. So the letter that was concocted is totally against anything in my character or in my actions, and I feel that anyone who would stoop to that level denigrates democracy, the ideals of democracy, and the principles that we as a Democratic Party should stand on. And I commit to returning our party to a party of integrity in our acts and in the way that we conduct politics.
Well, I feel that this particular election year, we're going to see a lot of dirty tricks, all kinds of misinformation, and I commend you for wanting to straighten this out, because a letter like that can be severely damaging to you as a candidate. It's important that anybody that's running for any office should not have any bias, prejudice. If it should be concealed, if there's any whatsoever. But the important thing to our viewers is that you're here today to dispel the rumors that you are against any gender, race, color, creed, because as chair, you would have to serve all of the people. It's your job as chair, if in fact you are elected, to mobilize the voters for the Democratic Party. That's what you're trying to tell us?
In every community. In every community.
Well, I'm just excited about the fact. I hate to keep saying that, but I'm just excited about the fact to see you even
thank you
a nomination for that position, and I think you know why. So
yes,
you know,
thank
we have
you
to.
So much.
But it's just so good to hear you say that your work is beginning. Your work is beginning, and the things that you want to do to get this Democratic Party moving, and you've got. As you say, the top-notch political consultant with you.
Absolutely.
That's going to get a pro with you. We know him.
Exactly.
But really, because we have a lot of work to do. This is going to be, like Pastor said, this is going to be a critical year for us. Right. And though this is not designed as a political show, it just don't take much to know that we've got some work that we've got to do.
Yeah, we have tremendous amount of work to do, and just as you all were alluding to before, of voting, Carol mentioned that it wasn't the voter apathy. I think that because of the lack of voter education, not enough public service announcements, not enough party engaging into the community, as she stated before, in churches, that we have lost basically the understanding, especially anywhere from the 18 to 35 and up, of the value of the vote, what the vote has meant to it, and what does your vote mean in period. Your vote is just equal. If you were Bill Gates, you know, with billions of dollars, your vote is just as equal as my vote. One vote per man. So your vote does count. Your vote has the same impact as a billionaire. Your vote changes. I mean, just locally in Sunnyside, over in the past election cycle, we have seen this. You know, we had one state representative race, State Representative 146, where State Representative Bar Smiles and State Representative Ald Edwards ran against each other, and it came down the first time they had a recount. It was 13 votes, and after they recounted it, it was 8 votes.
Exactly.
So your vote does count.
It counts.
One household could have changed that election.
Right.
Let me address something. Apparently, you have did some groundwork, homework, as to why do you think the numbers have fallen out as far as the Democrats that are register to vote? What do you see the problem in that? What do you think has caused the fall off of the people mobilized to get out and vote from the Democratic Party? Have you really assessed that and see what's the reason for that?
Well, I think that there are a couple of reasons, and one goes to what I mentioned earlier, that they simply have not been engaged. Most of the Houstonians did not realize that there is an actual office for the Harris County Democratic Party. It just existed as something that was abstract. There is an office, but it is not very accessible and is not very welcoming, even in the spirit of the office. And that is another thing that I would change immediately. I would be making the Democratic office more accessible to the people, particularly the elderly and those who are mobility challenged. But not only in operating within the office, but being out amongst the community. One of the things that assisted me in accomplishing historic voter registration and historic voter turnout, even including homeless individuals, when I was regional director responsible for 5 states with the NAACP, is that we went out into the community concertedly and we engaged the community and we courted the community based on their cultural mores, their cultural preferences, the way that they communicate. And people were willing and eager to respond to us in kind, and that's why they were willing to turn out. The other thing is, our voters, they don't want to be exploited. They want to be recognized and valued. And when they're just courted at election time for their vote, and then they feel that the people they voted for were not held accountable and did not produce what they were promised, and the voters don't see them again until election time, the voters feel that they're being used. They don't want to be used and exploited. They want to be involved. they want to be recognized, they want to be appreciated. And that's another thing that we will immediately change when I become chair of the Harris County Democratic Party. They will see our party out in the community. We should be among the citizens where they live, where they work, where they worship, but not just coming through when it's election time and staying 5 minutes to stand and wave, but to actually be there and worship with them, to be in the parks where they and their children play, to be where they have to go to pick up their public assistance, not because they're lazy, but because we have a challenging economy. We, as the Democratic Party, we tout ourselves as the party of the people. Then let's be about the people. And that's what I intend to happen when I become chair of our Harris County Democratic Party. And it requires a person who understands that we are all equal, we are all human, and we should be respected. Regardless of our differences, we should be respected. And that is why this kind of politics, base, juvenile, denigrating politics, that really is an insult to the history of our party, it would not be engaged in. We don't need to engage in that kind of politics, particularly when it is Democrats running against other Democrats in a primary. And my position is voted on May 29th and early voting May 14th through the 25th in the primary. But we shouldn't even engage in this kind of dirty, denigrating politics when we're running against candidates from the other parties, because we present candidates of substance. So we can run on the issues. We can run on the qualifications of the candidate, and not relegate ourselves to something as juvenile as fabricating a letter.
I'm glad to hear you, sir. I'm so embarrassed sitting here. Didn't know the office was here either. Didn't know where
Most
it was,
don't.
and most don't. That doesn't excuse me not knowing, but I didn't know.
I hold the party responsible for that. We'll do better.
I didn't know. And you're right. What the candidates do, we see them in our churches all the time. They come out, they want to, you know, pastor gives them their 5 minutes or their 15 minutes to say what they're going to do, and some of them we never ever see them again, other than, you know, when we go to the polls. When we need things in the community to be done, you know, you call on them, and they can never come during that time. And you're right. If you want my vote, then make my vote important by letting me know that I'm important to you, and what I'm doing for you, I'm making a difference. And that's not what I see, even in the past, for the ones that have come for us.
Well,
I've just not seen that.
That's why a couple of our themes is, number one, it's time for a change. And number two, we value not only your vote, but your voice. And I really want to express to you, Reverend Nash, and to all of your colleagues, appreciation. Because even though you know that as politicians, we come through the church and then you don't see us again, because you cared about the people and the awareness of the people in terms of which candidates were running, our clergy were still tolerant and allowed the candidates to come through, because they didn't want to cheat the people out of that educational moment to know who was running and on what platform. So I really want to applaud you all for continuing to let us through. But we definitely need to forge better partnerships with our clergy and with our community-based organizations.
And we were talking, Pastor and I was talking, that we do need to do more shows before this voting comes up to let people know about voting, because there is so much stuff out there that doesn't make any sense even to me. They're saying what you can do and what you can't do. So Pastor was talking, we need to have shows like that we can let our listeners know this is what needs to happen when you vote. No, yes, you can vote. And especially with the older ones, because, you know, most of our votes are based on our seniors come out. Our seniors vote. You know, they court those seniors, but if you're giving them wrong information, what can they do? And now there's another group that we really have to work on, that youth group, you know, because they have to know, and we spend a lot of time with our youth. They have to know that they're important. And yes, that vote counts. And, you know, you think that it doesn't, but yes, it does. And we work at our church of instilling in them that your vote counts.
Absolutely.
You know, pay attention. Yeah. He's on us all the time. He tells us all the time, stop watching those soap operas and watch what's going on in the news.
Right.
Exactly.
He teases us all the time about that. And what we try to do is get our youth in our church to get involved and stuff like that. You know.
Let me dispel another rumor that I didn't get to. Of course, I mentioned the voter ID. So we've heard about voter ID. You're going to have to need your identification to go to the polls. The Department of Justice has stepped in and decided and made their point in concerning Texas that we will not, as of yet, will have to use this particular voter identification. Right. I've heard on the various radio stations one person called in and asked about their mother who was elderly and said, well, she always votes by mail. Will she now need her ID to vote by mail? No, you continue to vote by mail as you have been. And right now, you can apply to vote by mail for this May primary right now. You have until May 22nd. This is the last day to apply to vote by mail for the May 29th election. And the only thing you have to do is call the Harris County Elections.
Give that name again.
It's the Harris County Election Department to vote by mail. But just one more brief statement. What Carol was saying basically earlier on the engaging from a political perspective, and I know a lot of people basically from the community that is watching, what she's saying is that she wants a Harris County Democratic Party that has their ear to the ground, to know what's basically going on over into the community before someone has to call several 8 times asking for that. Someone is already down on the ground because they have contact and communication.
Exactly. Now,
he said exactly, I know you got to read it. She said exactly what I want to say all the time. Because too many times we have politicians come, we don't know anything about them, never seen them. They come to the neighborhood and never, you can do some kind of check on them, never worked in the community. And I think sometimes the community get overwhelmed and they get confused as to who to vote for. And reason, I'm going to shut my mouth up, but I want you again to tell the purpose you're here. I want you to tell our viewers why you're here. Why did you come here? Why is it important that you be here today? That's what I want you to tell them before we go.
Number one.
And before she starts, I also want her to let them know where you, again, tell them where you are on the ballot. I want you to look at the camera over there. Let them know because they're going to be looking at you. We want them voting for you. So I want you to talk to the camera and let them know what why you're here and where they can find you on the ballot.
Wonderful. My name is Carol Douglas. It's spelled K-E-R-Y-L-D-O-U-G-L-A-S. I'm the first African American candidate for Harris County Democratic Party chair. On the ballot, the position of chair of the Harris County Democratic Party is at the bottom of the ballot in terms of the list of candidates. There are 2 candidates for chair of Harris County Democratic Party, and my name is the second name, K-E-R-Y-L. Although this is a historic campaign with me being the first African American, the most important thing is I feel that I can truly commit to all voters that I am the most experienced, the most passionate, and as this letter proves, I'm the most principled. I would never release a discriminating or bigoted letter as a political strategy.
Okay. We want to thank you for being here with us today, Carol, and we're going to, might see you again, especially when it gets closer to the, might see you again, and surely might see you again, Ron.
Thank you.
We want to thank you all for being here with us today. This has been a most inspiring show. If you need more information, you can call our number 713-731-7050, and we will get you in touch with Carol. So please, you all, let's get out and vote. That's what we need.
That's good.